The 1960s was a decade alive with change, invention, and culture. However, as technology improved, many of these iconic inventions and items were left behind, replaced by smaller, faster, and more efficient tools. Today they're relics, some completely forgotten, others cherished as vintage treasures. Join us in this video as we discuss 20 things from the 1960s, once necessary, now completely obsolete. Number 1. Rotary dial telephones. In the 1960s, rotary dial phones were found in every household. They were usually perched on desks, end tables, and kitchen counters across the country. If you wanted to call someone back then, all you had to do was carefully spin the dial for each digit and wait as it returned with a steady click, click, click. The design was simple yet sturdy, with a coiled cord connecting the handset to the base, often limiting conversations to a corner of the room. These phones connected families, friends, and even neighborhood gossip networks. But dialing was slow, and dialing errors were extremely common. By the 1980s, touch-tone phones, and later, mobile phones, replaced the rotary. Today, rotary phones are mostly vintage decor or collector's items, a nostalgic reminder of a time when making a call required both patience and a bit of finger strength. Number 2. Slide projectors. Before we had digital slideshows, family photo nights had a certain charm, thanks to the slide projector. This device turned living rooms into mini theaters, complete with the buzzing sound of a cooling fan and the satisfying clunk of each new slide clicking into place. Photos would appear one by one on the wall, each one a surprise, often upside down or backward at first. Slide projectors were a staple, not only in homes but also in classrooms and offices. However, digital photography and presentations eventually made them obsolete, leaving slide projectors as nostalgic flashbacks of a time when sharing memories was more tangible, hands-on, and let's be honest, a little less reliable, but all the more fun because of it. Number 3. Typewriters. For anyone who wanted to put words to paper in the 1960s, typewriters were the go-to tool. Despite being heavy and loud, typewriters were seen in every office and home, each keystroke accompanied by a satisfying clack. Writing on one took focus and care, as mistakes meant starting over or carefully inserting correction tape. Aspiring writers, journalists, and office workers all embraced these machines, enduring ink-stained fingers and cramped wrists for the sake of the written word. By the 1980s, computers began replacing typewriters, bringing the convenience of editing and saving. Number 4. Transistor radios. In the 1960s, if you wanted to hear the latest hits from the Beatles or the Rolling Stones, a portable transistor radio was your best friend. Compact and often decorated in bright colors, these little devices were a game changer, allowing music lovers to listen to AM and FM radio stations on the go. Transistor radios became a cultural icon, representing freedom and individuality, especially for teens. However, with the arrival of Walkmans, CD players, and eventually smartphones, these radios started fading from our sight. Although today's tech offers endless music at our fingertips, there's a certain nostalgia for those tiny speakers, and the thrill of twisting the knob to tune into just the right station. Number 5. Film cameras, Kodak Instamatic. The 1960s saw the rise of affordable, family-friendly film cameras, like the Kodak Instamatic. With its easy-to-load film cartridges, the Instamatic made photography accessible to nearly everyone. Families snapped photos of vacations, birthday parties, and every special moment, not knowing how the photo would turn out until the film was developed, a process that could take days. The mystery of film photography in the 60s was exciting. By the late 20th century, digital cameras began to overtake film, and today's smartphones have taken over photography almost entirely. Though film cameras are now rare, the warm, grainy quality of those old photos brings a unique, nostalgic beauty that digital shots can't quite replicate. Number 6. 8-track tapes and players. In the late 1960s, music lovers were introduced to the 8-track tape, a chunky cartridge designed to play entire albums with just one insertion. It was found in cars and home stereos. The 8-track format allowed people to listen to their favorite tunes on the go, a revolutionary concept for the time, even if it meant limited options to skip tracks or rewind. Despite their bulkiness, 8-track became a must-have for road trips and gatherings. As cassette tapes and CDs emerged in the 1980s, 8-tracks quickly fell out of favor. While they're now only found in the dusty corners of thrift stores, there's still the unique excitement in remembering that satisfying click as the player switched tracks. Number 7. Manual lawnmowers. Believe it or not, if you needed to mow your lawns in the 1960s, you had to use a manual lawnmower. These mowers weren't the motorized ones we know today. Instead, homeowners often relied on manual push-powered mowers with rotating blades and a simple design that was all muscle and no motor. Cutting the grass meant exercise and elbow grease, often taking twice as long as a modern mowing session. These lawnmowers were eco-friendly, quiet, and effective, perfect for creating neat, even lines in the lawn. But as powered mowers entered the scene, the manual mowers slowly rolled into the background. Now replaced by gas and electric models, they're missed by a few for their simplicity, although most of us would agree that mowing the lawn is way easier and faster today. Number 8. Corded electric razors. Corded electric razors were all the rage in the 1960s. They offered a new level of convenience over traditional razors. There was no need for a shave brush or a steady hand. Just plug it in, hold it steady, and let the machine do the work. Of course, there was one catch. You had to stay close to a power socket, usually tethered to the bathroom. These early electric shavers got the job done, although they were heavy and a bit noisy. With the creation of cordless rechargeable shavers, however, the corded models started to fade from use. While today's razors are sleek and flexible, there's a touch of nostalgia for those retro models and their mechanical whir. Number 9. Vacuum tube TVs. In the 1960s, families would gather around huge vacuum tube TVs to watch their favorite shows, often on a screen barely larger than a dinner plate. These TVs took a few minutes to warm up, and adjusting the rabbit ear antennas was almost an art form. Their black and white screens gave a grainy but magical view of everything from news broadcasts to the first moon landing. Though exciting at the time, these early televisions were bulky and prone to issues. As technology advanced, vacuum tubes gave way to sleeker, more reliable flat-screen models. Today, our TVs are practically unrecognizable from their tube-based ancestors, but the memory of those boxy televisions still brings back the joy of gathering together for a family night. Number 10. Encyclopedias. Long before the internet, if you wanted to look something up, you'd turn to a hefty set of encyclopedias. Most families kept a full set, proudly displayed on the bookshelf, a symbol of both knowledge and status. Encyclopedias were the ultimate go-to source for school projects, family debates, and even dinner table recipes. These books were carefully researched and beautifully illustrated, making them the 1960s version of Google. But they were expensive, and each edition quickly became outdated. As digital resources emerged, encyclopedias took a backseat, making way for instantly updated online information. Number 11. Vinyl record players. Hi-fi systems. In the 1960s, vinyl records weren't just for audiophiles. They were the main way people listened to music. Record players or hi-fi systems were common household fixtures, often with large speakers and a wooden console that served as furniture as much as a music system. Families gathered around these turntables, and the warm, crackling sound of a record playing was as much a part of the experience as the music itself. These hi-fi systems were eventually replaced by cassettes, CDs, and digital formats, which offered portability and convenience. But vinyl has made a nostalgic comeback for its unique sound quality. While hi-fi systems are now rare, there is still something special about dropping the needle and letting the music play the way people did back in the day. Number 12. Cathode ray tube CRT monitors. For anyone lucky enough to have an early computer or TV, the cathode ray tube CRT monitor was the center of attraction. These bulky, glass-screened monitors took up a huge chunk of desk or floor space and weighed a ton. Though limited in color and resolution, they were revolutionary at the time, giving a glimpse into the world of personal computing and TV entertainment. CRT monitors ruled the screen scene until the early 2000s, when flat-screen LCD and plasma displays took over. Today, CRTs are mostly gone, replaced by slim, high-definition screens. Looking back, CRTs remind us of a time when technology was heavy, humming, and full of cathode rays. They're relics now, but they open the door to a new digital era. Number 13. Carbon copy paper. Before photocopiers and digital documents, carbon copy paper was essential for making duplicates. Office workers, writers, and even teachers relied on thin, inky sheets to transfer handwriting or typed text from one page to the next. It was messy, usually left fingers smudged. It could also tear easily, but it was the quickest way to get multiple copies of a document. Carbon paper eventually gave way to copy machines and then computers, making duplication much easier and cleaner. Today, it's hard to imagine needing carbon paper, but it has its place in 1960s nostalgia. For some, the scent of ink and the feel of thin, flimsy sheets brings back memories of a time when paperwork involved a little more manual effort and maybe a few ink stains. Number 14. Pop-up toasters. The 1960s pop-up toaster was a breakfast icon. Shiny metal, pastel colors, and a distinctive ding made these toasters a kitchen staple. They were built like small tanks, often heavier than they looked, with a satisfying lever that lowered bread into the slots and popped it up when ready. These toasters gave families a quick, easy breakfast while adding a splash of style to the kitchen. Modern toasters may have more settings, but few have the solid vintage charm of the 1960s model. Over time, the designs improved, and newer toasters became lighter, quicker, and even programmable. Though pop-up toasters are still around, the style and durability of those retro models are what people reminisce about. Number 15. Cigarette vending machines. Yeah, you heard me. It's weird when you think about it, but in the 1960s, cigarette vending machines were as common as soda machines are today. They were found in bars, diners, and even office lobbies. These machines made buying cigarettes incredibly convenient. They were sleek, often chrome-plated, with pull knobs and colorful labels advertising brands. By the 1990s, however, rising health awareness and stricter regulations led to the decline of cigarette machines. Today, this sounds almost unbelievable. Cigarette machines remind us of a time when smoking was less regulated and more widely accepted. Number 16. Corded hair dryers. If you wanted an at-home salon experience in the 1960s, your first step was corded hair dryers. These early hair dryers were often large, loud, and somewhat heavy, with only a couple of heat settings. Though they required staying close to an outlet and were less efficient than modern dryers, they changed hair care routines, offering a quick way to dry and style at home. Corded dryers eventually evolved to become lighter, more powerful, and cordless. Today we have ionic and ceramic models with multiple settings and attachments, all designed for precision and speed. But those old school hair dryers bring back memories of the puffy hairstyle era, when getting ready meant a little extra arm strength and dedication, and maybe a blast of 1960s hairspray to hold the look. Number 17. Sewing patterns and kits. Making your clothes in the 1960s was both a creative hobby and a practical skill, especially for moms who sewed matching outfits for the family. Sewing patterns and kits, usually sold at fabric stores or in catalogs, offered step-by-step guides to create everything from dresses to aprons. Patterns featured illustrations of the latest styles, along with detailed instructions that were both precise and a little intimidating. Sewing became less common as fast fashion made clothing affordable and accessible. Today, while sewing has become more of a hobby than a necessity, vintage sewing patterns still charm collectors and DIY fans. They're a reminder of a time when creativity, patience, and a little needlework could result in something stylish and personal. Number 18. Paper road maps. Before GPS, there were paper road maps. Large, foldable, and sometimes frustrating to handle. Families planning road trips would rely on these printed maps, studying the tiny lines and symbols that marked highways, exits, and scenic routes. Unfolding and refolding them was an art form, and taking a wrong turn could mean backtracking for miles. Road maps were gradually replaced by GPS devices and smartphone apps that offer real-time directions, rerouting, and traffic updates. These days, few people carry a paper map in the glove compartment, but for those who remember them, maps represent the spontaneity and adventure of old-school travel. Number 19. Telex machines. In the business world of the 1960s, the telex machine was revolutionary, allowing offices to send typed messages over telephone lines. A bit like an early fax machine, it involved typing messages onto a long strip of paper tape, which was then sent to another telex machine to be printed out. The process was noisy and slow by today's standards, but at the time, it was a marvel of efficiency. Fax machines and eventually email made telex machines obsolete, bringing faster and easier communication methods. Though rarely seen now, telex machines represent a world where office communication required a little more patience and noise. Today's quiet emails and instant messages don't quite capture the industrial hum of the telex, a true icon of mid-century business. Number 20. Manual coffee grinders. Coffee lovers of the 1960s who wanted freshly ground beans had one option: a manual coffee grinder. These wooden and metal grinders required hand cranking to crush coffee beans, a process that was as much a morning ritual as it was a workout. The aroma of fresh grounds filled the air, making the effort feel worthwhile. Electric grinders eventually took over, making the morning grind faster and more consistent. While some coffee aficionados still appreciate manual grinders for the quality of the grind, most people prefer the convenience of electric models. Yet those vintage grinders bring back a slower-paced, sensory experience of coffee making that's hard to replicate. A reminder of a time when mornings started with a little extra effort and a lot of wonderful smells. Which of these 1960s relics did you get to use? Let us know down in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more awesome videos. See you next time.